Singularity, 12 Precepts for Transcendental Living, written by Luis Herrera, narrated by Bosco, a Cromwell Black production. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Isaiah 45, verse 7. Precepts for Transcendental Living. 1. Banish duality, the cause of internal division. 2. Want nothing you don't already have. 3. All solutions come from within, where you are now. 4. Think peace. 5. Everything that happens is okay. What does not happen was not necessary. 6. Life is a picnic, not a battlefield. 7. Entrust your life in the hands of divine guidance and provision. 8. Flow with the current of life. Only salmon swim upstream. 9. Bloom where you're planted. 10. Promotion must come from within before it manifests outwardly. 11. The path of humility travels the highest roads. 12. Adopt singularity, the eternal solution. Chapter 1. Banish duality. Banish duality, the cause of internal division. Singularity, as referenced throughout this book, is the opposite of duality. By duality, I mean the opposite ends of one thing. To illustrate, night is the opposite of day. However, my approach argues that instead of being dual notions, they together make the halves of a single day, hence are singular and non-dual entities. Sun and moon alternate ruling over the same sky. Boiling and freezing are opposite ends of the spectrum, yet H2O is the constant, so there is a unifying force which is the element itself, and so is also singular. Feminine and masculine combine to create life. Without either one, there is nothing. From the two is created the one, which is their offspring. Male and female are singular. Opposite ends combine into a whole, and so duality itself is an illusion. Just as a plot of land must be cleared and tilled before serving as fertile planting soil for a crop, the destructive notion of duality must be uprooted from your mind before transcendental life can take root in its place. This is a simple transformation, but it is not easy. It is difficult because the world is designed to thrive on duality, conflict, and competition. Us versus them. Red shirts versus blue shirts. Our party versus the enemy party. Examples are endless. This way of thinking must be discarded as a non-negotiable first step on our road to achieving peace and self-actualization. Whoever masters this notion can master anything else she puts her mind to. Discarding duality from our life is essential because holding on to this worldview necessarily causes schisms within ourselves, and this dichotomy, by definition, precludes wholeness and peace. In plain language, if we set ourselves up as judge to declare good and evil in others, we must necessarily have good and evil within ourselves. This is an ill way to live, because if we judge anything, we're naturally inclined to judge everything. It should be clear that ceasing to judge is not the same as losing all discernment or otherwise casting away our morals and values. You can be a moral and principled person who does not judge. Indeed, I would argue it's impossible to be one otherwise. You can hold yourself up to a certain standard without looking down your nose at those who choose a different lifestyle. The importance in doing so is that all your thoughts and actions towards another are innately a reflection of how you feel about yourself. If someone else is cast in our mind as an abject failure, it is only because we too are guilty of this. If someone else is dim-witted and slow, that's because we may be also. The human spirit is so comprised that all thoughts and judgments we pronounce over others invariably anoint our own head. Seeing this and accepting it as a universal truth goes a long way at freeing us from the tyranny and prison house of guilt, shame, and inferiority in which we incarcerate ourselves. The trap of duality is the ever-present appeal to our ego, that if that person is different than me, by default I am better. If we banish duality to the point that I can see myself clearly in the face of any other, then judgment and condemnation will not be forthcoming, if for the simple fact that, selfishly speaking, we are loath to judge ourselves. Admittedly, to ask this of you is to ask more than the majority of people are willing to do. This is why transcendental living, although simple, is not easy. Most of us prefer to cling to our petty biases and discriminations. We have pet vices and pet peeves that we relish in pointing out to ourselves and others. The 12 precepts outlined in this book are the result of 40 years of living by mostly violating the precepts rather than honoring them. Therefore, what you read is the fruit of a hard-fought labor. Anything and everything that is right in my life is the happy and inevitable consequence of having adhered to one or more of the precepts, even if unwittingly. I thank God I have reached a point in my life where I am now conscious of the precepts and can live the remainder of my days purposely abiding by them and reaping their abundant rewards. My prayer is that by reading this book, the same may be true of you. A natural parting point for many here will be the tenets of their professed religious doctrine. Not so, I hear them say. Duality is a fact of life. There is very clear right and very clear wrong, and nothing you can say will make me see otherwise. To which I can only respond, the 9/11 terrorists fought on the side of God, with the promise of 72 virgins awaiting them at the end of their heroic sacrifice. They too were fighting the devil and his minions in a dualistic world. And this, precisely, is the schizophrenic break caused by the mind consumed with duality. Your religion is not holier, your God is not more righteous. What's more, we have to stop looking for heaven on the other side of death. Not that we won't find it there, but that we must not wait till death to bring it about. This book intends to show us how to transform this imperfect world into a little slice of heaven for ourselves in the here and now. Religious organizations form a sense of community that largely defines itself by its exclusion from other groups. This is universally the case. Now, it is not my intention to instruct all my readers to abandon their lifelong religious traditions and identities in order to live transcendentally. However, you are being asked to cease judging those outside that tradition as somehow less worthy of blessing, enlightenment, wealth, wisdom, or whatever other boon is derived from being associated with it. It is a simple ask, but not an easy one. The challenge for the reader will be to remain appreciative and respectful of their particular tradition, or lack thereof, while at the same time open-minded enough to accept that it is only one of many acceptable paths to spirituality and soul nourishment. As a fair caution, any who are inflexible in this matter may not learn as much from this book as it otherwise has to offer. It should be clear by now what is meant by duality, namely the tendency and conditioning to constantly split the world and everything in it into two categories, hence dual, good and evil, right and wrong, correct and incorrect, holy and unholy, rich and poor, etc. It is funny to me that before embarking on this project, I had fallen pretty deep into the net of dualistic thinking, particularly with regard to money. Having recently picked up Think and Grow Rich, the timeless self-improvement classic by Napoleon Hill, for the second time. I first read it in my early 20s. And as I meditated on it more and more, I noticed a duality inherent in it, and have consequently set about to bring it into singularity. Here's what I mean. The book brilliantly portrays the unconquerable power of the mind to bring about every reality one maintains in it for a prolonged period of time. Focus on wealth, and you'll attract wealth. Focus on influence and power, and you will have both in abundance. The flip side of that coin is that dwelling on poverty, lack, or hardship will just as effectively bring these into your life as well. The trendy and popular law of attraction concept is sometimes erroneously attributed to the 2006 book and subsequent film, The Secret, where, in fact, that publication is but a watered-down repackaging of concepts Hill had crystallized in writing roughly a century before. This is not to say that Hill himself was the innovator of the concept. He was just the most instrumental in bringing it to light and publicizing it to the modern mind. The Precepts, as outlined in this work, have much to thank for Mr. Hill's insightful writing in the early part of the 20th century. However, are herewith approached from the viewpoint of singularity versus duality. I don't believe anybody alive today can truly be poor, unless they are poor in mind and spirit. As of the writing of this book, the author has made a salary of a little over $19,000 per year for nearly 4 years. But the author is not poor. Poverty is a condition of the mind and of the spirit. You are poor if you see yourself that way, which applies just as verily to seeing yourself as rich. By this, I do not mean, nor am I prescribing to adopt certain fantasies and illusions to make your life easier, but in truth, how you see things plays an imperative role in how things actually become for you. The argument here is that riches cannot be measured in dollars and cents, nor in Bitcoin either, for cryptocurrency enthusiasts, nor diamonds, silver, pearls, real estate, stock certificates and holdings, or gold. Wealth, as referred to in this book, is strictly measured by the wealth and quality of one's mind and the health of their bodies and hearts. What good is it to have $10 million in the bank, but a broken, unhappy home or chronic health issues due to unrelenting pressures and stress? Is a happy and healthy 60-year-old that earns poverty-level wages not richer than the 20-year-old Hollywood actress that hates her life and daily succumbs to people and situations she would rather live without? You be the judge. Therefore, by all means think and grow rich. Only be careful in your definition and identifying what is meant by riches. In truth, you may be much wealthier than you ever imagined. The mind that banishes duality can celebrate the interconnectedness in all things. It will be harder for people to irritate you, because you will see more of yourself in them, and subsequently become more patient. Minor offenses and slights will run like water off a duck's back. If you find yourself growing impatient or irritable, it will be simpler to stand back in a spirit of love and understanding, to accept the differences that make us unique and complementary beings. Yes, personal tastes, experiences, and preferences remain, but by refusing to see others as separate entities from you, you will necessarily cease to have opposition. If there is no opposition, there is nothing to fight against. You will then be free to begin collaborating with forces that used to work against you. Think about the impact such a shift in thinking can have on teamwork in your family life or place of business. The singular individual will not distinguish between themselves and their colleagues, and is therefore naturally able to highlight the talent, efforts, and contributions of their teammates. Such an attitude, especially coming from a place of genuine integrity, cannot help but be acknowledged and reciprocated by those with whom we work. The result is that cosmic-level karma kicks into full effect, and sooner than we might expect, we'll find others singing our praises unprovoked. There is nothing that spreads quicker or more efficiently than word of mouth, and what others say about you tends to ring truer than anything you can say about yourself. This negative injunction, do not, to banish duality, is a necessary prerequisite to living transcendentally. The mind that remains mired in it will not be able to free itself to the point of enjoying the life they would otherwise deserve. Having lived most of my adulthood as a considerably serious Bible scholar, I have faced tremendous challenges letting go of duality, if for the simple reason that the writing, as beautiful, enigmatic, and timeless as it is, relishes the thought of good and evil, light and darkness, us and them. Such extremist thinking actually had me ill for a period in my 20s and even into my 30s. I have since, thank God, been cured of all such thinking. This is not moral relativism. Of course, I understand that there are certain times and places for some things, as there are others for which there should never be a time or place. However, I have decided that whether or not any of that is good or bad is not for me to judge. In a word, if there is a cosmic almighty judge of the universe, it's certainly not me. Therefore, I will stop acting the part. That's what I mean in banishing duality. It is not that light and dark, justice and corruption, holy and evil cease to exist. It is just that I no longer dwell on these things, because there is nothing in it for me but heartache and internal division by doing so. I will not be solving the problems of pain and injustice in the world, and neither will you. Therefore, do yourself and everyone else around you a favor and give up the task. It is a Sisyphus-like undertaking that is bound to prove the same exercise in futility. The 12th and final precept in this book is to adopt singularity, the eternal solution, which is the positive injunction, do, and opposite of the first precept. The needle comes around full circle. The 10 precepts in between act as steps on a stairway to heaven, if you will, that can only be reached if faithfully adhered to. Duality is built into the fabric of society and hardwired into our brains by cultural heredity. As a happy coincidence, can there ever truly be such a thing? I currently have Pink Floyd's Division Bell 1994 concert playing on the other screen of my PC. The symbol for this album and the tour is a circular screen that plays images overhead as the band jams out their timeless tunes. You see, everything is connected. We are all connected. The mind that accepts this completely and consistently will inherit an interconnected world. It will be adept at making connections between seemingly unrelated things, and all the wiser for it. Artists and poets over the ages have made these associations and materialized them in their work, which is why they enjoy the immortal status so few are fortunate enough to attain. Therefore, come on this journey with me. Keep an open mind. Banish duality and prepare to drink in the nectar of enlightenment. And above all else, please do away with any notion or philosophy that tells you that the path to peace and enlightenment is to get out of your own mind and disregard your thoughts. The reason why such philosophies sound like metaphysical voodoo is because they are. Could a mind that was not thinking even write such a phrase as empty all thoughts? Thinking was required to write it. Therefore, it is utter hypocrisy and New Age mumbo-jumbo to say peace is acquired by vanishing thoughts or silencing your mind. I suspect the reason such notions are sold in the first place is to keep their proponents in demand. If I can convince you that the path to fulfillment requires superhuman effort and can only be reached by the privileged few, then you will pay what I ask so as to stay a contender for transcendence. Truly, learning to stop thinking will require infinite guidance and teaching, which certainly helps keep such teachers in business. My mission is different. My mission is to help you discover your own thinking prowess to the point that it becomes unnecessary to even finish this short book. The path to peace and fulfillment is directly interconnected with your thinking. To reach nirvana, we must first divorce the idea of a divided world, and so learn to adopt the unity of mind and soul that keeps our life in wholesome order. All that you touch, and all that you see, all that you taste, all you feel, and all that you love, and all that you hate, all you distrust, all you save, and all that you give, and all that you deal, and all that you buy, beg, borrow, or steal, and all you create, and all you destroy, and all that you do, and all that you say, and all that you eat, and every one you meet, and all that you slight, and every one you fight, and all that is now, and all that is gone, and all that's to come, and everything under the sun is in tune. But the sun is eclipsed by the moon. Pink Floyd's Eclipse, from 1973 album Dark Side of the Moon. Chapter 2. Want Nothing. Want nothing you don't already have. This is a very contradictory notion to hold in the third decade of the 21st century. It seems today all anybody cares about is having more. More money, more followers, more influence, more fitness, more sponsorships, bigger house, a faster car, a younger, better-looking spouse. It's everywhere, our obsession with newer, better, bigger, faster. It is an illness of our Western culture. Ambition is marketed as a desirable trait and esteemed an admirable quality of those who will leave their mark in the world. To lack ambition is seen as the unpardonable sin of the defeated, lazy, and slothful, who only consume and do not contribute to society. We value creative types, tycoons, go-getters, disruptors, influencers, billionaires. The word millionaire has fallen out of style. The world of social media sets up as its Greek-style gods and goddesses people that are famous for no particular talent, except their shameless attention-getting exploits and self-promoting stunts. Lavishly spending money one does not have and has not earned on luxurious trifles and vain excesses has become a worldwide obsession. Fame, followers, and notoriety used to be hard-won, based on skill, devotion, dedication, and commitment to an art or craft. It has long since been turned into a commodity to be purchased by the highest bidder. Fame for its own sake, unattached to skill or accomplishments, is the love child of social media and celebrity culture. It is officially the age of vanity and excess. So, to preach want nothing you don't already have is not only seemingly ludicrous, but is borderline sinful in this society. To suffer want is to be imprisoned by desires and compulsions. A truly free person is free first and foremost from want. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Psalm 23, verse 1. When this precept first hit home, I felt the tremendous relief of a prisoner who had been released from captivity. To want nothing is to be satisfied with what you have, what you have been given, what you already earned for yourself. Of course, it'd be nice to earn more money, have a newer car, a bigger house, a more powerful and autonomous career, more luxurious vacations. Sure, it'd be nice, but it is not necessary. The person who lives transcendentally understands this deeply. Culture today is so concerned with self-importance and impressive-sounding titles that no one is encouraged to simply be anymore. I cannot say that I am a husband, father, writer, provider. I must have several titles: co-founder of this, president of that, disruptor, influencer, chief. The world is so vain that our economy is largely defined by its ability to create wants and needs where none existed before. It is a wizard, ever creating new desires that it then turns around and promises to fulfill. At a price, of course. The person content to laze away long hours on a Sunday beneath the cool shade of a green tree, alternating between reading a good book, light snacking, and impromptu naps, is not the ideal customer and target consumer of most corporations today. The modern economy is designed to profit handsomely off of our insecurities. Insecurities created by the very companies that sell themselves as the solution to the same. Perpetual youth advocates target aging men and women. Success coaches pitch the unemployed person snacking on potato chips and watching television at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. Pharmaceutical companies sell stress and anxiety, then offer the solution through costly pills. Most doctors and health industry companies are in the business of managing illness versus actually promoting health. A healthy, unneedy person makes for a poor health industry consumer. No pills to sell, no expensive operations or therapies, no weight loss regimens or dietary supplements to peddle. A happily married couple spells bankruptcy to divorce lawyers and dating services. Someone satisfied to whip up a tuna sandwich defeats the fancy dining facility. In a word, satisfaction does not sell. Only want sells. Therefore, only want and dissatisfaction are promoted. And so, to want not is to rise above the realm of lowly mortals who spend a large portion of their day, and so their life, dwelling on the hole in the donut. When you look around you with a feeling of contentment, satisfaction, gratitude, and appreciation, you extinguish the gods of vanity and dissatisfaction in one fell swoop. Ceaselessly wanting what you do not have is a recipe for enslavement and disaster. Modern business knows this and makes it their sole reason for existing, to fan the flames of your insecurities and unmet desires. Too fat, too old, too poor, too ugly, too undesirable, too outdated, too worried, too ill. We have the solution for that. It screams at you from flat screens, magazines, billboards, and handheld devices everywhere. You must only pay this small fee or monthly subscription, and you can kiss all your worries and cares goodbye. That is, of course, until you swipe onto the next advertisement that exploits a different insecurity or weakness. The person who wants not also fears not. For what is want except for the incessant fear of missing out on things you truly do not need? Do yourself a favor and keep this important fact in mind. Our entire modern economy is built on dissatisfaction and quite literally banks on your insecurities and unmet desires. She who wants not fears not, and so is impervious to the insidious nature of a culture based on the dissatisfaction of the masses. True freedom from want and desire are yours for the taking. But aside from writings such as these, written with the good of the audience in mind, you will not likely be offered a solution but at a price, and this price is usually a perpetuity of reliance upon quick fixes and remedies that only mask the symptoms. All the while, secretly creating the very illness they claim to address. Certainly I understand wanting to improve your personal, spiritual, amorous, and financial situation. There is such a thing as healthy ambition. The first book I ever published, back in 2016, is called Creative Power, and it's all about tapping into our divine creative forces to bring about the lives of our dreams. I'm not an ascetic monk that lives on less than $20 a day, and I do work for a living. I like nice things. We do take fancy vacations at times. My point is not to espouse defeatism or otherwise sing the praises of asceticism or deep renunciation. Do pay your electricity bill. Do not disconnect from the internet. However, learn when you have had enough. To want not is to be satisfied and at peace with what is yours, your lot in life. Sure, we've worked hard to be where we're at. At some point, sacrifice, toil, and ambition came into the mix, or we never would have married, bought that house, had that child, accomplished such and such an endeavor in our profession. The basic and hardwired human trait of wanting to work to better our condition is not what I am referring to as detrimental. This is a healthy sense of dissatisfaction. Absolute passivity would render the need to write this book useless. Why write anything when I can simply lay back, relax, and let the good times roll? However, we humans need to create. We need to find expression for the longings of our soul. Take up that pen, paintbrush, pencil, or chisel. Tap away at that keyboard. Pick up that instrument. But do it because you have a primal drive that motivates you to do so. I can't not write. It would be a sin to me. I was thinking about this on my drive home from work yesterday. Radiohead offshoot band The Smile debuted their first album, which I listened to in the car. I could not help but think, these people write songs, play music, and produce albums because they cannot not do it. They have to and can't help it. And they should. For them not to do it would be a sin. The music flows from within them, naturally, with a divinity not unlike Michelangelo's painting of the Sistine Chapel. It would have been a sin for Michelangelo not to paint or sculpt. He was born to do it. I was born to write. As a youth, I embraced guitar playing, surfing, skateboarding, hiking, among other pastimes and hobbies. I did rather well at them. However, at heart, I am a writer. The guitar gathers dust, the surfboard has long been sold, a skateboard is a death threat. But the blank sheet of paper is a welcome respite from the world. Words flow through me more than they come from me, and myself and the world are better off for it. So in wanting not, I wish it to be clear. I am not advocating for extreme passivity or inaction. I mean do, but do because you have to do. For some, perhaps, amassing material wealth is something they are simply hardwired to do. In that case, they too should pursue their calling. But to want and amass, because that's what we're expected to do, or because we don't want to fall behind the rest, this is a fool's errand. The words of the sage, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, saith the sage, vanity of vanities. All is vanity. What profit hath a man of all his labor which he taketh under the sun? One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to his place where he arose. The wind goeth toward the south, and turneth about unto the north. It whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to his circuits. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Unto the place from whence the rivers come, thither they return again. All things are full of labor. Man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. The thing that hath been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, See, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come with those that shall come after. I, the sage, was king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I gave my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. This sore travail hath God given to the sons of man to be exercised therewith. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit. That which is crooked cannot be made straight, and that which is wanting cannot be numbered. I communed with mine own heart, saying, Lo, I am come to great estate, and have gotten more wisdom than all they that have been before me in Jerusalem. Yea, my heart had great experience of wisdom and knowledge, and I gave my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. And I perceive that this also is vexation of spirit. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. Ecclesiastes 1. Chapter 3. From Within. All solutions come from within, where you are now. There is a common fallacy prevalent in the world this day, a fallacy perhaps older than time itself. Whether myth or biography, the book of Genesis catalogues one of the most famous examples of this, as Eve reaches out to eat the forbidden fruit, an outside solution to an internal need. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat it, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. Genesis 3, verse 6. The idea is not to debate whether these are factual events. What cannot be denied, however, is that they form the pillars to what is perhaps the most pervasive myth in Western society. Notice that Eve lusted for the fruit because it was, quote, good for food, pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, unquote. Let me ask you, cannot the same be said for countless so-called solutions and philosophies in this modern age? We are caught up in the pageantry of life. We wish to exude power, influence, health, beauty, wealth, to be the walking pictures of youth, success, and prosperity. Photoshop makes things so easy, now commonly referred to as filters. Social media makes the pageantry so palatable, instant, and accessible. We can purchase the solution, the cure, the remedy, the fix. There are tried and true formulas and mentalities for success. Again, the idea here is not to knock self-improvement and people striving to lead a better, more peaceful and prosperous life. The point we wish here to make, however, is that all solutions already exist inside you and come from within. As a personal example, I cannot tell you how many books I have bought and read in this short life of mine, but it's easily in the thousands. With a considerable amount of interest, I can get through a relatively thick book in 10 days, with a full work week in between. I have read up on countless topics in fiction novels, but mostly I'm drawn to philosophy and nonfiction. I suppose you can say that I am a seeker. I have prowled the pages of the Bible over many years, like a hungry wolf looking to satiate the thirst for the meaning of life. as enriching and enlightening as all this reading has been, I am saddened to report that I have yet to read the book where I come up to the last page and declare in triumph, "Aha, that was it. That was the book I've been looking for. Now I can rest in peace, because I know the meaning of life." It just hasn't happened, and it never will. The idea is not to discourage you, but to encourage. You see, my friend, the solution to all your problems already exists within you. A great book will not help you land your soulmate, dream job, dream body, billionaire lifestyle, or even the perfect soul for the spiritually inclined. Instead, all good books, as is my hope like the one you're reading now, serve as guideposts at best. They are mile markers, helping you decipher where you are along the path. That's not to say that there aren't true professionals out there with golden advice to dispense. There are. But no single book, seminar, school, education major, professor, guru, or teacher can possibly show you all you need to master life and succeed at your calling. In fact, books, seminars, and programs that even remotely hint at being the solution to these things invariably disappoint more than satisfy. You hold in your hand Singularity, 12 Precepts for Transcendental Living, which I realize is a lofty title that may sound as if it promises the answer to life. Well, let me disavow you from that erroneous notion once and for all. This book is not the solution. However, it may serve as a handy guidepost for the person already walking their path. And friends, we're all walking the path. From the moment the delivery doctor spanks our behind to make sure we were born with a healthy set of lungs, to the moment a loved one closes our eyelids shut because the spirit that animated our body has returned to the place from which it came. Living transcendentally is not the same as having the answers to life. What this means to me, the intention with which this book is written, is to help you identify the God within yourself. Religion is a guidepost, but not the answer. Philosophy is a guidepost, not the answer. People that over-identify with one group or tribe for ideological reasons invariably meet with disappointment because there will always be some tenets they internally oppose and disagree with. Yet, they ignore their inner voice in order to fit in with the rest. Man is a social animal, and excommunication from the tribe has been tantamount to extinction of our lineage since our days as hunters and gatherers. There is a real fear of being left out that has been hardwired into our nervous system from time immemorial. I understand this need, and am still, if to a lesser extent, ruled by it somewhat. It would be disingenuous to deny this. Yet, by living transcendentally, I have learned to acknowledge, welcome, and accept the space between myself and my tribe. I invite you to do the same. Learning to listen to the God within, I can trust my inner voice more because there is a message spoken there, uniquely for me, that will never be printed on the pages of the Bible, or the Koran, or the Tao Te Ching, or any other book for that matter. There's never been another Luis Fernando Herrera born at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday morning in San Jose, Costa Rica, on September 2nd, 1981. And guess what? That window is closed. There will never be another one of me again. Now, fill in the blank for your birth location, country, time, and name, and declare this same thing of yourself. There is only one you, and that window has also been permanently closed. Others may have your name, but not your identity. They may share your birth date and hospital, but not your parents. They may share your parents, but not your name. You see what I'm getting at here? Therefore, how can a one-size-fits-all religion, education, or philosophy possibly answer the question to your meaning of life? There is no the meaning of life, because there is no the life. There are infinite lives, for which infinite meanings must be furnished. Hence the importance of learning to trust yourself, your inner voice, conscience, the God within. This is why, admittedly somewhat ironically as I'm only too aware, my social media posts encourage people to dump social media. I encourage you to listen to yourself for a change. Turn off that podcast. As well-meaning as that audiobook is, it is merely someone else's opinion of what is good for your life. I realize the same may be said of this book. So you know what? Please put this book down now and look for a cool, shady patch of ground in your garden. Shut off the phone. Turn off the music and all the distractions. Kill the television and streaming services. Listen to the God within. She has the solution you seek, crave, and need. I can't tell you what is best for your life. Oprah can't tell you. Neither can YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Prosperity prophets don't know what is best for your life. Religious leaders and spiritual gurus have their own agenda. Doubt this? Ask to be included in a board meeting of your local church, synagogue, or mosque. They are run like for-profit business entities because, aside from the fact that they benefit from tax exemption, they truly are. Ask to be included as a fly on the wall, as a tithing shareholder in the enterprise, and you'll see them breaking out spreadsheets, pie and bar graphs with pivot tables and glide paths, talking about month-to-date tithing numbers, seat occupancy, headcount growth, and attrition. The monthly number of baptisms and communions are KPIs to them. They will pay top dollar for a preacher who can keep butts in the seats, not unlike commercial arenas, professional sports teams, and Broadway. Therefore, can the preacher tell you what is best for your life, what God demands of your days? All solutions come from within, where you are now. If you are still reading this chapter, I hope it is only after having shelved it for a week and taking internal inventory. And believe me, I understand it is frightening to carry this level of burden and responsibility. If the rabbi can't tell you how to live your life, that means all credit for success and failure lies solely with you. It's scary to have that type of accountability. But my friend, has this ever not been the case? Ironically, in most rites of passage ceremonies, universally celebrated around the time a youth reaches adolescence, the common thread, regardless of the culture, is that now the youth is responsible for her own life, decisions, blessings, and sin. Parents are absolved around the ages of 10 to 13 normally. So even these religions, cultures, and philosophies that would deign tell us how to live say, you're on your own, kid. If you go to heaven, congrats. If you wind up in hell, that's on you. Your life is your own. In short, your voice is more important than you know. You understand much more than you let on or even admit to yourself. Stop looking outside for the answers. Stop looking without. All solutions come from within, where you are now. Few guides, books, or teachers will admit this, because that means maybe you can cut back on investing in their prescriptions and services. Disinterested teachers and guides are rare, few and far between. They're out there, but not in abundance. As for me, I work for a living. I do not depend on book sales to feed, clothe, and shelter myself and my loved ones. I'm not a for-hire consultant. I'm just a fellow traveler on the road, happy to be of service if and when needed. I don't know what's best for you. Neither does your spouse, your spiritual guide, guidance counselor, or professor. At best, we serve the role of guideposts saying, you are here. But as to where you should end up, where you must go, and the path to take to get there, my friend, for that you must consult the God within. And no, you will not find the answer printed on the pages of any book. Therefore, congratulations, my condolences, and good luck. You're on your own. Chapter 4. Think peace. Think peace. To achieve a sustained, uninterrupted feeling of peace has got to be, whether or not openly acknowledged, the ultimate goal of every human being. If we are honest with ourselves and each other, we'll admit that almost everything we do, every action we undertake, is done with the sole objective of achieving a moment's peace, commonly referred to in psychology circles as the pleasure and pain principle. All life strives to maximize pleasure and minimize pain. Simpler still, it is striving for peace. So why peace? What's the big deal? My friend, we work hard, most of us, to have enough money, right? Why do we need enough money? So that we can afford housing, clothing, and nourishment. Why? Because to be naked, hungry, and exposed to the elements generates the opposite of peace. Why do overachievers virtually kill themselves in pursuit of their next big goal? Because they are certain that when they reach it, they will have a moment's peace. Validation equals I am good enough equals peace. Yet this is not the best way to go about it because it is so fleeting in nature. If we define peace as finally receiving what we're after, then there will always be another unfulfilled want keeping us from enjoying peace. When you think peace, you leave unfulfilled desires behind. You reflect on the fact that you are already satisfied. No, you may not be rich, but you are not destitute either. There is food in the refrigerator. There is clothing on your body. You are either full or can count on the fact that your next meal is just a few short moments away. Sure, you're busy, but not overwhelmed. Hey, you were unoccupied enough to steal away and read this book. The trap of worry and preoccupation is the insidious habit of always dwelling on that one or two or three remote challenges that you know are awaiting you just around the bend. How can I relax now, you may ask, when tomorrow morning I have that big meeting with such and such, and my presentation isn't nearly ready? I am human. I fall prey to this type of thinking now and then, although I'm happy to report, much less frequently than before. You see, I've discovered a secret. Most things that we view as being of life and death importance, most worldly concerns that cause us to fret and worry, are highly overrated. Very few situations are truly life and death. Sure, problems and cares and concerns arise, but nothing is here to stay. That presentation you're losing sleep over, you're likely better prepared than you know. And your audience isn't a tenth as particular and exacting as you believe they are. Most people are just happy that you show up and give it your best. People are, on the whole, much more worried about how they come off before others than they are judging or thinking of you. It's a proven fact that in any meeting, presentation, or encounter, people most often spend 80% of their time thinking about how they'll respond to you, if not daydreaming or blocking you out entirely, and only 20% actually listening to what you have to say. In fact, likely, yes, this is funny and sad, you've only retained about 20% of what you've read in this paragraph. Go ahead, it's okay to laugh at yourself. I do it too. Now I'll wait for you to reread. I have decided not to allow tomorrow's concerns to be today's peace stealers. Yes, prepare, study, research, rehearse, do your best. But if and when you have done what you can, you have effectively bought yourself the right to disregard your cares, because, and this too is a proven fact, worrying can only make things worse. Today's frenetic world is quick to shame people out of a peaceful state. How can you relax, it demands. Look at the rate of inflation, the war overseas, the cost of living and health care. There's deadly violence in our schools and shopping centers. The wrong party is in control of the government. How can you sit there and take the load off? There's work to do. We must organize. We must take action. We must move. Don't just sit and relax. Inaction makes you complicit in the world's evil. Ouch. I feel guilty already. And trust me, I get it. I know that horrible and catastrophic things happen entirely too often. I grieve too. It would be inhuman not to. However, to put things in perspective, and based on May 2022 numbers, daily 316 victims suffer the impacts of gun violence in the USA, with 33% being lethally wounded. That is equal to 115,419 victims annually, for a total of 0.035% based on a population of 330 million. In simple terms, roughly 3.5 out of 10,000 people will suffer gun violence in the USA this year, with one being a fatality. Yes, these are atrocious numbers. However, they are nowhere near as endemic as social and mainstream media would have you believe. They and all such organizations are in the business of selling sensationalism, not facts. And to take the argument further, numbers in America are statistically higher than other developed nations in the world. But I have news for you, my friend. You are not here to save the world, and neither am I. We are here to discover our purpose and live out our calling in our own unique way. Your radius of influence may not go beyond your house cat, the mailman, or the next-door neighbor. But if that's where you're needed, if that's where you can best serve the world, then that is where you should be. Do not allow yourself to be shamed for not doing enough, for not contributing enough money, time, resources, social media posts, phone calls, or whatever. Your mission is to be the best version of yourself right where you're planted. Now, if you feel your calling is to be an epic, game-changing agent, and a force to be reckoned with in the world, then by all means, knock yourself out and go for it. But make sure the voice calling you to action comes from within your heart and soul, and it's not merely the brainwashing of social media or the intended effect of mainstream media programming. Good question. How can I be sure? Thought you'd never ask. You cannot know if you have not taken the time to study your own mind, away from the din of the crowd. You may need to unplug for a good 7, 21, or 63 days. No social media. No TV news, no newspapers or blogs, no podcasts or channel subscriptions, no streaming services. A few good books, but hopefully not even that. Just be. Be yourself by yourself. Some good music, maybe. Lots of fresh air and nature. Make a date. Pencil it in your calendar if necessary. 4 to 6 p.m. this Friday, I will spend 2 hours alone, outdoors, without a cell phone or any other electronic device. Possibly a good print book, so you can pause, reflect on what you're reading, and simply use a leaf as a bookmark. Be yourself. Think your own thoughts. And breathe in the air. This is paradise restored. This is peace. Whether or not you're religious, you need to acknowledge the fact that not even those we regard as world saviors have been able to save the world. Jesus did his best, yet here we are. Muhammad did his best, yet here we are. Buddha did his best, yet here we are. Lincoln, Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr. all did their best, yet here we are. I am not denying these were epic lives that have impacted the course of history, birthing cultural, religious, and political revolutions, because clearly they have. But the fact remains, they have all failed miserably at saving the world. Therefore, with all due respect, my friend, who are we to even try? Defeatism? Nah, it's reality. Let yourself off the hook. God already has. We do ourselves so much harm when we take up the mantle of Messiah. Messiah complex is a real and unfortunately prevalent symptom of today's society. Who doesn't have a Messiah complex? We want to save the dolphins, or the rainforest, the refugees, or the economy itself. We are not able to. No one is fit to carry the world's burden on their shoulders. Do what you can, when you can, within reason, where you are located now, with the tools, resources, and contacts you have now, with the time and energy you can donate now. Do not overextend yourself. Do not nail yourself to the cross. We don't need you to. There is a deliciously twisted irony in the person that is so egotistical and self-important as to believe that if not for them, the world would be in perfect shambles. They parade around as self-sacrificing servants of the Lord, while driven deep inside by the demons of pride, vanity, and ambition. The sin of arrogance due to self-piety is so common it's almost laughable. The Bible itself cautions, "Be not overly righteous nor overly wise. Why should you destroy yourself?" Ecclesiastes 7, verse 16. And to close with a golden seal, verse 20 asserts, "For there is not a just man on earth who does good and does not sin." So, think peace. The right help will go to the right people from the right place, whether or not you lift a finger. Yes, your contributions make a difference. Your life is not meaningless. The things you do matter. But beware the deceptiveness of Messiah complex. Make a difference when you can, with what you can, where you can. But do not overextend. You are already enough. You don't need to justify your existence. Enjoy the peace you've been given this day. You're blessed to enjoy this bit of quiet time, this nice meal, this refreshing shower, this warm bed. There is wealth and abundance in the universe. All needs and wants may not always be met instantly, but that's not your problem. If there is an almighty God of the universe, then model yourself after God and just relax. You don't see miraculous cures for all the ills and evils of the world, do you? Almighty God could eliminate them with the wink of an eye, but chooses not to. Therefore, let yourself down from that cross. Have peace. Today I give you permission to simply be and let go of all worries and concerns. Tell whoever is trying to guilt-trip you that I said it was all right. God wants you to have peace. The world and all of existence is inherently good. Peace is the default, not the exception. Abundance triumphs over lack and want. Enjoy the wholeness it brings. Relish in all that is yours today, including health and prosperity. Let go of the guilt. Think peace. Chapter 5. Everything okay. everything that happens is okay. What does not happen was not necessary. This is a very Zen attitude to have, I am aware, in a Western, action-dominated society that tells you constantly to recreate life in your image. Passivity is bad, proactivity good. The all-pervasive call to action encompasses us about on all sides. We are indoctrinated not to accept what happens as being okay. Today I'm here to supply a much-needed breath of fresh air. Everything that happens is okay. What does not happen was not necessary. How can I be so certain? Why so Hakuna Matata? It must be confessed that this attitude, this all-important precept, can only be adopted by the person that has faith. Faith in what? That's up to you. But faith is indispensable in order to lead a peaceful, trouble-free existence. It takes a certain level of humility, the 11th precept, to accept that the world does not revolve around our person. It is a tragic relief to realize that had we never been born, the world would pretty much march on according to plan anyway. Now, I could reason that it would not be the same for my son, for he would not be here. But in reverence of spirit, I reply, Nevi's soul would have come through another set of parents, if not by me, and nothing could have held back his existence, as was ordained by God. The same, by the way, is true of your soul and of mine. There is a delicate balance in accepting our cosmic irrelevance, even as we embrace the fact that we're divinely ordained beings. But wait, how can it be both ways? We're either important or we're not. It's black or white, isn't it? Or is it? Nothing is truly black or white. It's all just infinite shadings and variations of the limitless, undefinable colors of the rainbow, the full spectrum of light. If you had not been born to bless us with your presence, someone else, entirely unique but just as deserving, would have married your spouse, had your children, and lived in your house. Of course there would be differences, but the key components would remain in place. It's a shocking and sobering thought, but humility will teach you to accept it. The flip side here is that you are unique and irreplaceable. The fact that you exist means that divinity deemed you necessary for the universe. No one is here by happenstance. By the same token, the things that transpire and are deemed bad, negative, or evil are also necessary and acceptable before God. See, my friend, we must let go of that deeply ingrained pride that tempts at every occasion to set us up as divine judges of the earth, humanity, and all the cosmos. Remember that these 12 precepts for transcendental living build atop one another and must be followed in order, like a stepladder. And the very foundation and cornerstone in Chapter 1 was to banish duality, the cause of internal division. We can't have it both ways. We can't say God knows best, and then turn around and object, except for this and that situation. What's up with that? That's just evil. If God is almighty, then the devil is completely useless and ineffectual. If the devil exerts even an ounce of power or influence, that is an ounce that eternal, omnipotent God has relinquished, thereby nullifying his omnipotence. If God is omnipotent and there is evil, death, destruction, and suffering in the world, then God is either directly liable or in the least allows it to go on, thereby incurring guilt. If God's will is to prevent all evil but does not, then God is not omnipotent. This debate has fueled the imaginations of philosophers and spilled the ink of countless writers and poets over the ages. The traditional Western theological answer to this conundrum is the following. The cause lies in the marriage of free will and original sin. God blessed humanity with self-will, and because of it and the fall of Adam, mankind occasionally chooses evil over good. God respects mankind's choices, even if these occasionally result in destruction, loss of life, suffering, and injustice. Eventually, paradise will be restored, and justice will be meted out, either in the next life or on the new earth. In this explanation, the resolution to all our perplexing problems and life's contradictions are conveniently put off to be answered far down the road at a time and place far, far away. Often the people who cling to this theology secretly relish the impending doom of the sinner, while at the same time greedily looking forward to their own eternal paradise. This is for me, not for you, they reason, and this thinking gives them a false sense of peace. I say false because humans are hardwired to be empathetic, and it is impossible to have true, lasting internal peace with the thought that a fellow creature is excluded from the same blessings forever. So, to tie these concepts together in a fine pink ribbon, if any man is to preach, let us preach humility. When confessing, let us confess ignorance, and bow low before the vast, incomprehensible nature of life, eternity, and existence itself. It takes profound meekness to accept that which transpires in this life, to refrain from labeling anything as either good or bad, a blessing or a curse. This is dualistic thinking, which, as previously discussed, causes internal division and schisms in our community. And I am not naive. I can hear the objections clearly. Easy for you to say, Luis. Your family is whole, healthy, and complete. You have not suffered loss. To which I will admit, you're right, good friend. I am and have been supernaturally blessed. I am not pretending to write these words from the vantage point of a Job, per se. In my 2021 release of Teddy Newman's Heaven, I dealt candidly with the themes of death, injustice, premature separation of family, unfinished business, unfulfilled dreams, martyrdom, eternity, the hereafter, among other topics. Without spoiling it for you, I can say in that novel I ascribe to the solution is awaiting us down the road philosophy. It is faith-based. I don't pretend to have all the answers. No one does. But like a true philosopher, it is my place to question, to be on the hot pursuit of relentless and merciless inquiry, to follow the investigation as far as it leads, wherever it leads, for as long as there is breath in this body of mine. In the Bible, Jacob the shepherd becomes Israel because you have struggled with God and with man and have prevailed. Genesis 32, verse 28. Israel struggles with, strives against, and challenges both God and man. We are here to push back, to fight, to question, to hold accountable. Why, God, why? This is the cry of all flesh and blood creation. Now, it would be disingenuous to pretend that life is only suffering and injustice. On the whole, things go right much more often than they go wrong. Our bodies, the government, mechanics, chemistry, and mental sciences function properly rather than misfire as a matter of course. 99.999 times out of 100, the airplane that goes up in the sky and travels hundreds or thousands of miles over land and sea lands safely without so much as a scratch. If we were to take inventory of the millions of functions that our cells execute flawlessly, all 86,400 seconds of the day, we would stand in awe at the engineering marvel that is the human body. How is it that we don't have to command our hair and nails to grow, or coerce our intestines to digest and process our food? Why don't we have to force our lungs to filter oxygen and our heart to pump blood throughout every organ? Who programmed the skin to grow back and heal after a scrape or cut? How does it know when to stop growing?
How do bones know to work together perfectly to form the structure of the body, arranging themselves always in the right order at the right place? See, my friends, there is divine engineering at work here. We need to recapture our sense of awe and wonder, that childlike unknowing. What we apply to the flawless clockwork of creation, we must apply to the people, places, and events that surround us as well. There is a supreme power in control. No, you are not that supreme power. Everything that happens is okay. What does not happen was not necessary. Didn't get that promotion. It wasn't for you. Missed the bus, train, or flight? You weren't supposed to be on it. Lost your job because you missed the appointment? God has something better for you. The comedian Jerry Seinfeld had a surprisingly honest episode on his sitcom in which, as he put it, he was even Steven. He asserted that no matter what happened in his life, either good or bad, things always balanced out in the end. Therefore, nothing that happened could ultimately be labeled bad or good, because it all evened itself out beautifully. His good friend Elaine, upon hearing his thesis, asked him for a $20 bill. He gave it to her, and she immediately proceeded to toss it out the window. He looked at her inquisitively and asked, "What was that all about?" "Let's see if it comes back to you," she replied with a wily smile. "You know, you could have tossed a pencil out the window and seen if that comes back," he retorted. Sure enough, a few moments later he put on an old jacket and serendipitously found a $20 bill tucked away in one of its pockets. Let's be more like Seinfeld. Let's be even Stevens. The universe is astonishingly fair, supremely loving, and infallibly reliable most of the time. Let's not dwell on the exception and make it the rule. If necessary, and as touched upon in other chapters of this book, please do away with commercial media in all its forms. They do not have your best interest in mind. They have only corporate profits in mind. And the higher and more prolonged the sense of alarm and urgency they can produce among the masses, the greater the executive bonuses and stock dividends. Don't be a pawn in another man's game. Be the starring hero of your own life. And remember, everything that happens is okay, and what does not happen was not necessary. Chapter 6. A Picnic. Life is a picnic, not a battlefield. Often depicted as a never-ending struggle between life and death, we are told that only the fittest survive, that it's a world of ruthless competition where the weak and unsuspecting are gobbled up alive. The meek and innocent don't have what it takes to make it out there because of naivete and inexperience. In order to thrive, we must be calculating, ambitious, and live by a take-no-prisoners approach of self-preservation, winning at all costs. There may be some truth in these statements, but even so, they are largely exaggerated. The truth is that to the Transcendentalist, life is a picnic, not a battlefield. Let others stumble and trip over themselves chasing trophies, validation, and recognition from the world. Let them fight and wrangle for the spotlight and applause. In my experience, I have seen that quite ironically, it is usually the calm and humble individual that comes out on top. They win by not caring to win. Their work is done from the heart, because there is a need to fill, and because they go about their business with love, care, and a sense of duty. The organic nature of this work, done for its own sake, is always felt and acknowledged by colleague and client alike, and the craftsman is in greater demand for it. I'm in no competition with any other writer. Both me and her, me and him, are artists going about our craft in our own ways.
The world loves rankings and bestseller lists. The commercial, monetary aspect of all endeavors is what's primarily discussed. Few care about the nuance and intricacies of the art, the writing itself. But a true artist does not write for the market. To sample and copy what sells may secure financial success for some, but the true artist creates because they are driven to at a primordial level. They create what heart and soul dictate, not necessarily what trends on the New York Times. There's nothing wrong with profiting from one's craft, but naked profit alone should not be the motivating factor behind the work. When a piece is wrought with profit as sole impetus, the work suffers a tasteless, mass-produced quality that is evident to all but the least experienced and discerning. In its truest, optimal form, life is a beautiful journey, at times peppered with pain, loss, and strife, but nevertheless a happy and joyful endeavor. When it comes to career and personal vocation, transcendental living focuses on performing work that is aligned with one's natural inclinations, strengths, and talents. Knowing this intuitively, how many of us waste precious years and even decades resembling a fish trying to ride a bicycle? We toil away at companies and positions we are ill-fitted for at an atomic level. We do it for the sake of stability, over-evaluating economic considerations while completely disregarding emotional and spiritual ones. We need to step back and be honest with ourselves. How much of what we do, how many hours do we consecrate to people and activities we would be light years away from if possible? The average work week consists of 45 hours, give or take 10. There are 168 total hours in a natural week. This means that wholly 27%, nearly a third of life if we add in commuting and preparation time, is devoted to our profession or vocation. Honest question, my friend. Shouldn't a third of our life, with the other 2/3 equally divided between sleep and free time, be devoted to a work and craft that is amenable and in harmony to the very makeup of our soul? And believe me, I understand this is easier said than done. We love to think of ourselves as sacrificing on behalf of family. Remember Messiah complex? But to the person that truly asserts themselves, this does not have to be an either-or proposition. You can choose to live a both-and existence. Life is a picnic, not a battlefield. In Taoism exists the concept of Wu Wei, loosely translated as the art of doing more by doing less, or effortless action. It's an interesting theory, to say the least, the gist of it being that we often interfere and provoke trouble in life by our own incessant engagement, proactivity, and compulsion to micromanage. The solution, argues Wu Wei, will often come about of its own accord and its own ideal time, if we're just smart enough to be quiet, wait patiently, and stay out of our own way. It's devilishly simple, and even sinful when gauged by the frenetically paced ethos of Western civilization. Wu Wei would advise us not to send that email, refrain from giving feedback, voicing our opinion, or otherwise contribute to rectifying or influencing any particular situation. It's a wild concept, is it not? Do more, do it all, and do it well by doing nothing. If this seems like a contrarian, backward way to approach work and life, let me assure you that its irreverent counterintuitiveness is precisely what will set you apart from the crowds greasing the bearings, stuffing gloves, and otherwise stacking the odds in a vain attempt to win. Effortless action is the way of nature. It's how the seasons come and go, how rivers flow to the sea, how countless generations of humans, animals, and plant life adhere to the cycles of birth, growth, maturity, and death daily. When we fight,
push, tug, and pull against this wu-wei, against this uniform flow in life and nature, the best we can accomplish is burn precious energy, while often bringing about the very dreaded result we hope to avoid in the first place. This is why we should not resist the aging process. This is why we should not resist change, period. Not resisting is not the same as speeding along, which is also forceful action that works against the flow of life. Wu-wei turns dusk to night, night to dawn, dawn to light, and back to dusk again. It accomplishes everything by seeking to accomplish nothing. The moon, sun, and heavenly constellations have no managers keeping them on tight time schedules. They govern themselves by being ungovernable. The waves of the sea form, crest, and break without the aid of an aquatic engineer giving them a blueprint or mapping out their trajectory. Lions do not consult with a dietitian before pouncing their next meal. The rooster has no alarm clock telling him when the dawn is ripe for his call. A fallen branch does not protest that its life was cut short, screaming foul until it hits the ground. Stoically and in silence, it simply returns to the dust from whence it came. This is wu-wei. This is effortless action. Life itself, in order to prosper, should be lived with this attitude. The transcendental life that comes to this realization may be enjoyed as a picnic, not endured as a battlefield. I said in my heart, "Come now, I will test you with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure." But surely this also was vanity. I said of laughter, madness, and of mirth, what does it accomplish? I searched in my heart how to gratify my flesh with wine, while guiding my heart with wisdom, and laying a hold of folly, till I might see what was good for the sons of men to do under heaven all the days of their lives. I made my works great. I built myself houses and planted vineyards. I made gardens and orchards, and I planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made myself pools from which to water the growing trees of the grove. I acquired male and female servants, and had servants born in my house. Yes, I had greater possessions of herds and flocks than all who were in Jerusalem before me. I also gathered for myself silver and gold, and the special treasures of kings and of the provinces. I acquired male and female singers, the delights of the sons of men, and musical instruments of all kinds. And so I became great, and excelled more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my reward from all my labor. And then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and on the labor in which I had toiled, and indeed all was vanity and grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun. Then I turned myself to consider wisdom, and madness and folly. For what can the man do who succeeds the king? Only what he has already done. Then I saw that wisdom excels folly, as light excels darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet I myself perceived that the same event happens to them all. So I said in my heart, as it happens to the fool, it also happens to me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart, this is also vanity. For there is no more remembrance of the wise than of the fool forever, since all that now is will be forgotten in the days to come. And how does a wise man die? As the fool. Therefore I despised life, because the work that was done under the sun was distressing to me, for all is vanity and grasping at the wind. Then I despised all my labor in which I had toiled under the sun, because I must leave it to the man who will come after me, and who knows whether he will be wise or a fool. Yet
He will rule over all my labor in which I toiled, and in which I have shown myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. Therefore I turned my heart and despaired of all the labor in which I had toiled under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, yet he must leave his heritage to a man who has not labored for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. For what has man for all his labor, and for the striving of his heart with which he has toiled under the sun? For all his days are sorrowful, and his work burdensome. Even in the night his heart takes no rest. This also is vanity. Nothing is better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. This also, I saw, was from the hand of God. For who can eat, or who can have enjoyment more than I? For God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who is good in his sight, but to the sinner he gives the work of gathering and collecting, that he may give to him who is good before God. This also is vanity and grasping for the wind. Ecclesiastes 2.